I've always been, as Tim has, both been huge fans of horror films and, vampire movies and, since childhood. I guess, with this particular character, Barnabas, I tried, I actually tried to stray from the original character just to see if something would arrive. Some other image, some other guy, but nothing was coming, and I guess it was just because I was so deeply rooted in what Jonathan Frid created, and so it basically Tim and I both knew it was like this is the guy, this is the basis for the character,
But I mean, there's such, like you said, there's a history, so much a history, and like I said, I've been watching these ever since kids. So, seen every, Boris Karloff, Christopher Lee, and I would have to say you probably draw it on everything, just because it's a, this is a vampire, so it's probably, Nosferatu,
Sure.
Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, Jonathan Frid, what all those things brought to you, so it's always a mixture, I'd say.
It is it is a mixture. It happened at a diner in a hotel. I think it was the Bellage Hotel. And I was scared to death to meet Tim because at the time, it was like 1989, I think it was, or something. And I was considered, at that time, that there was the sort of the stamp of TV actor or whatever. And I was trying to cancel the meeting because I was just scared it was going to be pointless. And then we met, and I ended up going to the meeting, and we met in that diner and sat and talked for a couple of hours, like a really long time. And I just remember we just kept drinking coffee, but I was like chewing on I left the place chewing on my spoon, like gnawing on it. But it was like one of those meetings that very rare, where you just connect on various levels,
You don't really analyze it too much, you just sort of, because I think it's the same thing, with the word, it's like, you don't sit around and go, oh, well, why, this is why, you don't pick it apart like it's some kind of like because a lot of these things are just sort of more surprising and organic, and I think as a sort of artistic relationship, that's the most crucial thing. I mean, I don't think he would ever do something if he didn't want to do it, it's got to be. You got to have the passion for it.
I'm proud of. I don't know. I'm proud of all of them.
I mean, I would say, because it's like they're part of you, and as I mean, I don't know, but as an actor, whether they're even successful or failures, they're part of you.
Yeah. I'm proud of all the work I've been able to. Lucky enough to do with Tim,
It's like your children. I'm both proud and ashamed of all of them.
Well, I think probably initially, I mean, really, it was Edward Scissorhands, because it was something that was so. I mean, I felt was so something very personal to Tim, and certainly a character that I connected to and knew very well in my heart and in my mind, and I wanted to make him, perfect for Tim, and do, so that was probably and it was also the most important for me of all the films we've done together. It was really the path, it was putting me on the path that I wanted to be on.
I mean, he does it every time. I mean, he'll always pick something that he's on, I mean, I was impressed, like on Sweeney Todd, that he sang. I mean, he sang like one of the most difficult things, and that's quite an exposing thing, I mean, it's that kind of thing. So there's always something, there's always a new element that he does that, to me, is going into new territory, different boundaries, so it's always there. Usually with characters that are quite visual, sometimes it takes a while to click into what that visual thing is, but that can take a few days, the change of that look and stuff. But no, I mean, you don't. Again, I don't think you monitor like, ooh, we going too far. I mean, like for me, you're dealing with a studio, you're dealing with money, so you try to be responsible for what you're doing. But at the same time, you got to just do what you want to do, because that's know. So I don't know. I never really think like, oh, we're going too far. It's more about, well, does it fit within the character or whatever?
No, not really. You know, I mean, I mean, it still feels like it did, you know, back, you know, when we first, I mean, when Tim first cast me in Edward Scissorhands, it still feels that fresh. It still feels, you know, each time out of the gate is a new thing, and we've never sort of relied on any kind of formula or, you know.
Code of honor. Code of silence.
Code of silence.
You just nod at each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You know,
Knowing looks.
At this point, yeah, Tim can just sort of tilt his head a certain way, and I know, you know, I can kind of suss what he wants from me.
If one of us throws up, that means something's wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these little hints that we find. I think the key, in fact, probably the more times you work with somebody, each time you probably question it, like, okay, are we doing this? And it's very simple. Like, I know with him, I wouldn't ask him to do something, or he wouldn't want to do something unless he loved the character, wanted to do it, felt he could bring something new to it. So, you know, that just is sort of that just goes without saying. And so it's always important.